Let's do a little Supreme Court wrap up, right? Because the session is over. A lot of decisions came out. We already know the big one, okay? Roe is finally gone, and you got all your goofy, ugly protesters, except for that one right there, which, damn, like, that's unfortunate that she's just so gone between the ears because, whoo, buddy, I have not, the pair like that, those are few and far between, but unfortunately, man, look at the sign that she's holding, like, there's no hope there, so, oh well, another one bites the dust, or another two. I'm sure she'd love me objectifying her, and you know what, hey, she's only used to soy boys in her presence, so I'd totally screw up her world. But anyways, like I said, okay, and like many other people have pointed out as well, okay, Roe gets overturned, and then eventually there's just going to be a whole bunch of other lawsuits that get up there in order to enshrine abortion as a health care or a human right or some dumb shit like that, okay? Whatever they want to do, they will accomplish through the courts, because just because a Roe v. Wade was bad legal precedent, decided with some, I don't know, throwing some darts at the Constitution, well, it's like, you know, penumbra of the 14th Amendment, and it's like, okay, cool, whatever, fine. Fantastic. It worked at the time. It got overturned. Let's move the fuck on. So that's what they're trying to do here. Pro-abortion injunctions attempt to delay abortion bans. Yes, and they've been successful in a couple of places. We're not going to linger on this for very long because this whole abortion thing is, it's just kind of tired, right? It's almost like give as much of a fuck as some of these ungrateful mothers. Judge temporarily blocks abortion ban in Kentucky with the latest of states with trigger laws on hold. Yeah, there's a lot of these underlying laws that were already on the books in some of these states that were decided well before Roe v. Wade, that once Roe v. Wade was overturned, that national precedent was gone. There were some trigger laws that are in a bunch of different states. That's why it's like, okay, it's not going to be illegal. Okay, there's a waiting period before it gets implemented. Okay, and then there's questions whether or not they're really, you know, accurate for today's day and age. So that's what they're meaning by these trigger laws. It's like, okay, cool. So this was decided with very vague terminology because the medical equipment at the time wasn't quite up to snuff to what we have right now in current year. Ergo, we need some better definitions. So immediately, here's some lawsuits, and it's just wild, right? Normally, the courts move at a snail's pace, but they get all of these lawsuits in these highly politically charged, very emotional situations, and they're just like, "Yep, nope, we're definitely just until we can decide on something, we're just enjoining this, so that guess what? Everybody can just go out and get a Hoover attached to their crotch and don't even worry about it." So that's happening in Kentucky. All right, it's also happening in Texas and Ohio for similar reasons, which Texas, that don't make a lick of sense, okay? Because they were one of the first states, okay? They were the ones with a big problem, okay? Was that this year? I think it was earlier this year, right? Their 6-week ban, okay? Ohio had something pretty similar as well, okay? Arkansas, Missouri was the one that ended up triggering this, okay? To begin with, and then you got Florida, which again, all of these are just places that are eventually going to have their different types of abortion restriction. And okay, just for clarity's sake, it's like, okay, just whenever you can identify that it's going to be thanks to today's medical technology, whenever you can gestate a human being, that's probably about when the time I would call it for human life. But if you're just completely pro-life, that's totally up to you. But anything past that, that's just premeditated murder, in my opinion. Okay, once you find some viability in the fetus, it becomes a human life, and it should have the same amount of rights as everybody else that's out there. Okay, passing through a vagina, okay, getting a C-section doesn't magically make it a human life, much as some misled idiots think it does. Okay. Because if you're under the interpretation that you think if it's not born, okay, through conventional means, okay, do you think if somebody suffers a heart attack later in life, has a stroke or something like that, shouldn't be hooked up to any medical equipment because, oh, no, you can't have any of that in order to heal a human being, okay, to make them whole? Nope. Can't do it for younger people that are out there, okay? And then whenever somebody's time's up, I guess it's just time to drop dead. I guess I'll just die. I'm sure medical technology is going to continue to get better and better and better, and maybe the 6-week mark is, maybe that's just the magic. Okay, we can detect a heartbeat, we can detect brain function, or at least high enough where we can put it into an artificial womb, and then the kid can be created and then put into the adoption pool. Totally fine. Okay, if we get to a point of that, that's fantastic. But the current pediatric care that's out there, yeah, viability detection after that, it can be helped along through the miracles of modern medical technology. So it's like, okay, cool. That's my opinion on it. That's fine if you have something different. If we're arguing in good faith, I'm totally fine to just have an open conversation about that. But at the end of the day, it's not for me to decide. It's not for you to decide, theoretically, unless, of course, you're Ron DeSantis or a legislator in a different state that's out there. But a Florida judge delays the 15-week abortion ban. DeSantis is not surprised. Yeah, no, exactly. These are old laws that need to be reintroduced in the modern age. So you're going to have to update it, okay? So this will just serve as a primer for all of the other lawsuits. I'm probably missing a couple that have already been filed because it's not like these activist broads have the families or, any friends that they have to look after. Okay, the cat's water dish is full and it also has enough food to eat, so they can go file all of these lawsuits. A circuit judge declared Florida's 15-week abortion ban unconstitutional. Why? By delaying it. And Governor Ron DeSantis said the decision was not unanticipated. Leon Circuit Judge John Cooper. Wow, that is a name that has probably shown up in many ad in a newspaper looking for a BBC for their wife, ruled on June 30th that the new law signed by DeSantis in April was unconstitutional and that it was temporarily delayed. Why? If it's unconstitutional, shouldn't you just strike it down? But would only take effect after he issued a written order, meaning it would still take effect on July 1st. We knew that that was likely going to be what was decided in the case, the governor said on June 30th press conference in Sanford. It was not, of course, something that we're happy to see. Shortly after the legislation was signed into law, attorney for the ACLU, oh God, aren't you guys tired of losing in court? And Planned Parenthood sued to stop the law and asked the court for an injunction. How adorable. They argued the law violates the right to privacy provided by the state's constitution, which was approved by the voters in 1980. They might have a case. They might have a case at the end of the day, okay? And that could be one of the legal theories that's out there under the, illegal search and seizure, okay, under the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution. That's an interesting legal theory that's out there, but Roe v. Wade didn't ask any of those questions. It just did picked and choose, okay? So there's going to be a lot of interesting legal questions when it comes to all this stuff, okay? Eventually, we're going to have to get a decision from the Supreme Court what exactly is meant by a human life. So that'll be a very, very spicy decision whenever that shows up. In the past, court cases have affirmed the right of privacy extended to a woman's right to obtain an abortion. So that's in the past court cases, okay? Once again, another reason why a lot of people thought that Roe v. Wade or KCV Planned Parenthood wouldn't be overturned because of stare decisis, the lay of the land. Previous lawsuits set precedent. Well, if it's all based on bad law, what are you going to do about it? Okay. Staff attorney for the ACLU, Reproductive Freedom Project. So instead of, helping out any sort of like free speech issues, the American Civil Liberties Unit, no, they got a specific feminist branch to go after this type of shit. Whitney White, boo, said Florida's 15-week ban would force people to carry pregnancies against their will. Well, who decided to squirt up in them to begin with? Okay. It doesn't really sound like it was all that forced to begin with. And again, this old tired trope, it's like there was how many different steps that were missed along the way, okay? And like you guys always like to say, okay, actions have consequences, okay? Because you say something doesn't mean that you should be absconded from facing the consequences. If you don't like it, you could just create your own state. Or from Florida, like, I don't know, take advantage of, I don't know, your shitty barista job and get flued out to California to get the big suck. Do you, I guess. The ban defies the will of the people and the rights that Floridians have relied on for decades. Again, is it really the will of the people, or do you just like to say that? Because we've cited some statistics in the past where it's like abortion's only really popular with like 40-ish% of women, okay, and overall it's still, okay, of all Americans that are polled, it's normally somewhere in on or around 50, maybe. So I wouldn't say the right of the people, but wait, the will of the people. But if it's good legal precedent, it's a good legal precedent. You can change it by passing some laws in the legislature, but as of right now on the books, it's a question to be answered. Everyone deserves the ability to access the abortion care that they need. Okay, cool, so I can get an abortion whenever I want to. Terrific. My asshole will never be cleaner. And we'll continue to fighting for the right with every tool at our disposal. Yes, including a big old spoon. Alexis McGill Johnson, President and CEO of Planned Parenthood Federation of America. Oh, God, more baby killers. Oh, there's a glimmer of hope for the abortion access. Great. There was a glimmer of hope in that womb before you summarily fucking ripped it out of there. This decision could not come at a more crucial time, she said in a released statement. Released, like how many fetuses are right there on the ground. As abortion bans ripple across the country. Where? Abortion bans. Oh, okay, cool. Outright bans, right? No carve-outs. Literally nowhere. But okay, cool. You continue to fearmonger. I get it. Create a problem. Blame it on the other people. Get yourself, reap the windfall of your own creation. Terrific. Ripple across the country. Floridians need to be able to access care at home. So what, you want on-demand, like, little abortion trucks that show up with just little ghosts of babies on the side of it? Like, is that what you're trying to do? Just be out and open with it, okay? Yeah, man, we'll see where all of this stuff goes. And frankly, at this point, I don't really care. Ho's still mad. Hoes are still going to be mad. Regardless, even if Roe gets reinstated, okay? That's how they're programmed, dude, okay? Speaking of which, Ketanji Brown Jackson just got sworn in with, I don't know, Joe Buck's gayer cousin, like, holding some Bibles or something. See, the United States is a Christian theocracy. Shut up. Yeah, man, this session is, for all intents and purposes, closed. Justice Breyer is now retired, and we're just waiting, I don't know, for probably a new photo op that's out there. And it's so nice that this is such a historic event, right? You got Chief Justice John Roberts, who finally, after all of these years, found his fucking balls. They got a homosexual in the picture as well. And then, as reported by Good Morning America, Ketanji Brown Jackson is sworn in as the first black Supreme Court justice in the United States history. Do I even need to elaborate on that fucking idiocy? They had that up for 4 hours and then they deleted it. Okay, but the Supreme Court, I wanted to take a look at some other decisions as well. Just briefly go over them quickly. Just kind of do a little cleanup. Kind of like after a Planned Parenthood room where you just got to get the wet mop and a little broom as well to get all the little hands and fingers, you know, to just go throw it in the dumpster out back. But North Dakota had a problem on their hands. A little geek with a lot of money. Okay, he was buying up a lot of farmland. He is, I'm pretty sure this is still the case because we talked about this, oh Lord, going on about a year ago. Okay, he is the single largest owner, independent owner, the singular individual owner of the most farmland in the United States. Why exactly? We could really just run some conspiracy theories out there, but the long and short of it is, he keeps up buying up farmland. Now is just take Bill Gates out of this situation. You had somebody, just even somebody that you like, theoretically. Elon Musk is doing this. He's buying a bunch of farmland. Would you really feel bad about it? Would you really feel that that's wrong or anything like that? I don't think so. Okay, like literally, what does anybody have to say about somebody exercising their right to purchase land that's up for sale? There's nothing wrong with that. Even if you're negotiating somebody who's not even that firm about selling that, okay? Nobody's forcing people to sell to anybody, okay? Just the highest bidder comes in and they buy it. As long as it's all up and legally sound, okay, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. But because it's Bill Gates and because conspiracies and all that stuff, which I would tend to believe that Bill Gates is probably up to something, but when it comes to purchasing farmland, yeah, no, he's probably up to something nefarious, but if we got to set legal precedent on this one, okay, if somebody's just buying farmland, a lot of farmland, $13.5 million worth of farmland in North Dakota specifically, you'd think that there's probably cause for concern there, and you can, depending on the laws and regulations within North Dakota, you can kind of keep an eye on what he's doing and make sure that there's nothing, you know, lab related that's getting set up over there. But as for him buying it, I don't have a problem with that. That might be a contentious take. That might be a hot take. And that's kind of what the law sided with, thankfully, because again, it's not always going to be Bill Gates. Okay, these big land purchases, what's the constitute a big land purchase? Okay, this could end up affecting a lot more people. So you kind of got to take your feelings out of this situation. Like you can always see in the comments section, rats, not a good day for North Dakota. Actually, it's really good. It's just kind of enshrining. If this wasn't Bill Gates, like I said, if this was Elon Musk or Peter Thiel, okay, buying a whole bunch of farmland, okay, you'd have no problems with it. But when it's Bill Gates, now you got a big problem because he's a shitty individual. I understand. But this is good legal precedent, okay? Microsoft founder Bill Gates has won legal approval to buy a massive swath of prime North Dakota farmland. What constitutes it as prime, okay? Over the objections of some local residents and questions about the legality of the purchase, okay? North Dakota's Attorney General, a Republican, cleared the sale on June 29th after finding that Gates-controlled entity companies with a Depression-era law meant to protect family farms because the land is being leased back to farmers. Okay. Red River Trust, a Texas-based organization controlled by Gates, in November bought some 2,100 acres of farmland in North Dakota near the borders of Minnesota and Canada. Okay, so it's up there in no man's land. What would that border on? Manitoba or something like that? Or maybe Western Ontario, where it's just kind of crack central. But anyways, move drew scrutiny from North Dakota's top prosecutor in the context of possible non-compliance with laws that prohibit corporations or limited liability companies from owning farmland or ranch land, but allowed individual trusts to own the land if it is leased to farmers. Yeah, okay, so he's adhering to the rules, which is fine, and this is what you can do. You shouldn't be restricting people's right to own private property. You just, if there's other rules on top of that, then it starts to get murky when it comes to tyranny. But again, at the end of the day, for me, I'm pretty principled when it comes to this stuff. Shall not be impeded, shall not be encroached, shall not be infringed. Whether it's firearms, whether it's farmland, I don't want the government telling me I can or cannot buy something. Simple as. But dipping back up to the Supreme Court, you got this EPA ruling, which Democrats are obviously saying, oh my God, it's just Republicans wanting to pump all of their carbon emissions into the atmosphere, and we're gonna die a heat death in like 5 fucking years. Not even close. Not even fucking close. This just takes the bureaucracy out of regulations, okay? Don't have some fucking white hard hat having dumbass with perfectly clean coveralls who has never seen the inside of a camp in his entire life, drives around in his white company Silverado, and he tells everybody what to do. It takes that goofy motherfucker and puts him back in the office where he belongs, okay? Long and short of it, fewer regulations, more innovations. Overall win for the economy. Well, somebody's got to do it at this point. Everybody else is just muddle fucking around, okay? This is stopping, at least for the time being. It's pumping the brakes on this push towards clean energy come hell or high water. Gives a little bit of reprieve, at least for the time being, and I'm totally for it, okay? Republicans and Democrats are split over the decision by the Supreme Court that greatly limits the reach of the Environmental Protection Agency, to regulate carbon emissions, while Republicans have painted the decision as a victory over unelected bureaucrats, which should always be a big W. Democrats are sounding the alarm about the environmental toll that they said the decision could have. Chief Justice John Roberts, who, like I said, it's weird to give this guy a pat on the back because forever he has just been the Chief Justice of cuckoldry, but hey man, he's been siding right for a minute, but I don't expect that to last at all. Wait for the next session. I'm sure he'll fuck it up somewhere along the way. Wrote the court's majority opinion in West Virginia v. EPA. The court file, whatever, you can look at it if you'd like. Roberts was joined by the court's 5 other conservatives. The court's 3 liberal justices dissented. Yeah, but we live in a Republican theocracy. Why is it that the liberals always vote as a collective, but it never goes the other way when it comes to conservatives? Okay, you'll have Kavanaugh or aka Kavanaugh flip-flop almost as bad as John Roberts, okay? Put a Gucci symbol and simpletons would fucking buy them up for $150 a pair. While capping carbon dioxide emissions at the level that will force a nationwide transition away from the use of coal to generate electricity may be a sensible solution to the crisis of the day, Roberts wrote, quoting the 1992 precedent in which it is not plausible that the Congress give EPA authority to adopt its own such a regulation scheme in Section 111D of the Clean Air Act. A decision of such magnitude and consequence rests with Congress itself. Exactly. Neuter these unelected bodies. That's all it did. Make it an issue for Congress to decide, okay? Have the will of the people enforced through the will of the people, not through the will of the people who are elected by the people, okay? Got away from a monarchy just about 300 years ago at this point. Don't need to return to that. even though I've been watching a lot of like historical recitations of pretty significant events, okay? I want to get myself more acclimated with history, but the way that it's looking right now, I correct me if I'm wrong or something like that, but it really, Western society as a whole, okay, like I talk about the United States a lot, obviously live in Canada, can also see what's going on across the pond over in the UK. It's really, we're starting to get to a point, and whenever you see the likes of, say, Eric Adams, okay, at a big celebrity ball, just yucking it up, meanwhile his city, New York City, okay, is just descending into just crime-ridden madness. Lori Lightfoot also doing the same thing in Chicago. It really looks like mid to late 1700s in France, okay? And yeah, if we don't course correct on that one, I don't think guillotines will be showing up in the streets, but we'll have a reign of terror of sorts because shit like this is kind of cyclical. So, pardon the pun, but if we could go ahead and cut this off at the head, we'd all be better off as a result. So, this right here is it's just great. Once again, okay, I like the decision because unelected parties should not have say, okay, over the actions of individuals or private companies, okay? Now do the CDC. Last but not least, okay, this is another one that's been yelled about by Democrats everywhere, just like the EPA ruling, okay, and just like Roe v. Wade, and just like the firearms, literally just go through the streets, and it's just going to become a shooting gallery out here. What, shall issue, going through a background check, okay, like I've seen, oh god, there's been some horrific boomer takes when it comes to this stuff, them trying to secede ground. Well, I think it's right, if somebody wants to go buy a firearm, anybody 18 years old doesn't need a gun. Cool, terrific, it'll eventually be, what, this small period in time when you're between the age of 30 and 35 when you can purchase a firearm, okay? You have to go through all of this rigorous training. You have to have a clear record, okay, before and after, and any time that you're suspected of doing literally anything, they can just come and rip your firearms away from you at a moment's notice. That's what you're seceding to eventually at the end of the day, because unfortunately for them, for the people who are just the overwhelming tyrannical folks that are out there, okay, there's that number 2 amendment that's on there, and they can't get enough states to ratify that off the Constitution, so they got to pay at least a little bit of lip service. They can't go full Trudeau and just start ripping guns out of people's hands, okay, or be like Australia and New Zealand to buy back guns off the back of some false flag event. Starts with Christ and ends with church. That's alright, guys. Everybody likes Jacinda Ardern and her thoroughbred smile. But speaking of churches, by the way, okay, this one has also gotten the attention of the godless heathens that are out there, to be completely honest. And I'm not by any means a religious person. I don't go to church on Sunday, okay? I don't consider myself any specific denomination. I appreciate the teachings of the Bible, whatever form or fashion it is. The Judeo-Christian way is probably the way, even though we should probably take a little bit more influence from Islam out there, because they really seem super based when it comes to fighting back against all this woke nonsense. But regardless, okay, having some sort of a moral principle normally leads to just a better society. That's just my opinion, okay, when it comes to being religious or anything like that. I'm not going to be a bitch and say that I'm spiritual and I like the stars and shit. And it's like, okay, cool, whatever. You'd be thrown off a cliff if this was 300 years ago. Don't even worry about it, okay? It's all fine. But this ruling right here, Democrats are screeching that this means, oh my god, why don't you separate church and state? And it's like, that's exactly what it is. But anyways, still, no, this is just injecting religion back into schools. It's literally not. It's nothing even close. But again, abortion is now illegal. Firearms are just going to be rampant in the streets without addressing, like, you know, illegal crimes that happen, and then just guns being smuggled across the southern border. Don't talk about anything like that, okay? All of that stuff, that's definitely going to be happening. And again, it's just a religious tyranny that's happening in the schools. Are we talking about all of the CRT that's in there? Because that just really seems like a religion in and of itself. But regardless, that's not what this decision reinforces, by the way. It just allows for religious expression that's not compelled. Simple as, okay? Supreme Court rules in favor of high school football coach fired for post-game prayers. Yeah, man, this is ridiculous. The decision overturns the often reversed Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Yeah, back when it sucked and then Trump restocked it with better federal court justices, and then the Fifth Circuit, the one in Texas, that one started to become a problem. But the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, it was centered in San Francisco, and that one was fucking dog shit, okay? Supreme Court ruled 6-3. Oh my god, those conservative bigots, they just want everybody to be Catholic. Yeah, we got it. On June 27th, the school district in Washington state violated First Amendment religious freedom protections when it fired high school football coach Joseph Kennedy. That is legitimately the most Irish Catholic name I could think of, okay? Well, considering it's old exhaust port in the cranium, JFK's name, for leading personal prayer at the 50-yard line after games. Leading personal prayer at the 50-yard line after games. Wasn't forcing anybody. Just going by his lonesome to the 50-yard line and praying after the games. Literally, I've been to a bunch of different football games, different professional football games, CFL games, in fact, okay? I've played football before, okay? There's always been a designation before the game and after the game. You even see it sometimes, okay? Broadcast on television, especially with the NFL. You have a group of players who go either to one of the end zones, whatever's going to be their first end zone, okay? They might go around the pylon or something like that. They have their little prayer. They get off the field. They do the old cross. They give the salute to Jesus up there. And yeah, no, they go about their game. That's what they didn't want in Washington state. Long and short of it was, you just don't do that. Okay, stop doing that. And he's like, well, I'm not telling anybody. If they want to join in, they can go ahead and do it. I'm just expressing my religious freedom as is enshrined in the First Amendment, which is just kind of dubious in this application whenever you're a leftist. But yeah, man, this just reinforces that, once again, individual choice, individual liberty supersedes everything else, as was enshrined in, the old United States Constitution. But what do I know? In this case, the High Court held that the free exercise of free speech clauses of the First Amendment protect an individual engaging in a personal religious observance from government reprisal. Yes, the court found that the United States Constitution neither requires nor allows governments to suppress such religious expression. Coach Joe Kennedy, who no longer works for the taxpayer-funded Barrement School District in Washington state, ergo why the government can't enforce you, or rather suppress your religious expression, and because it was funded by the taxpayers in Washington state, claimed his rights were violated when the district forbade him from praying in view of public after games. Like, why? And again, if he wasn't just an Irish Catholic, I'd imagine, I'm just going off names here, but if somebody was praying to Mecca, do you think anybody would have been pulling Abdul aside and saying, geez, we need to stop at halftime and at between the third and fourth quarter, you can't be doing that. That's a bad look. Nobody would have said word fucking one. But it's all right. It's been open season against Catholics and Christians, and depending on what day it is, certain Jewish sects, okay? Especially in New York City, okay, don't have the curly cues or the big felt hats. But it's nice to see that this is backed up. Like I said, I'm not a religious guy, okay? But if somebody wants to pray after the game, when it's all said and done, you do you, pal. And if other people want to join in, you're not forcing anybody, that's terrific, okay? I can remember at least a little bit, okay? My memory's a bit foggy of my childhood, okay? But I think around, it was either the second or third grade. This was in public school, okay? We'd always have the national anthem play, and then we had the Lord's Prayer. Yeah, that was either first, second, or third grade. It was somewhere in there where we said that before we began our school day. Okay, so I guess that's completely outlawed now. It's like, I don't know, every day we stray further from God, evidenced by, do you see all the rest of the thoughterry that we're talking about and the stupidity that we talk about on this channel? I just wanted to end on a little bit of a high note, okay? Religious freedoms upheld, Ho's still mad, and now, thankfully, finally, we have the first black Supreme Court justice. Yes, we have broken through that glass ceiling as well. Why not? Hey, she's the first woman to be put on the Supreme Court as well, too, replacing an old white man. Time's up for old white liberals. I agree. With all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.